this is Rachel Carson out researching, and this is just, she said this is where she was the happiest, is when she was out in nature. One way to open our eyes to unnoticed beauty is to ask yourself, what if I had never seen this before? What if I would never see it again? This quote by Rachel Carson really makes you think. What if you saw something and you knew you'd never see it again? Would you make it, or would you act differently? This is how she lived every day. She knew every time she saw the ocean or worked to help make new discoveries, it might be the last time. The findings and understandings of the sea and its animals are going to help humans, and I can personally tell you that these are going to help us tremendously. Rachel Carson devoted her life to expanding our knowledge of the oceans. In this speech, you're going to hear about Rachel Carson's life, her work and findings, and how she helped us pave the way for female scientists and workers. First, I'll talk to you about her life. When I was researching her, it didn't ever say much about her childhood, but every place I found always said that she had a deep love for nature and loved animals. Rachel Carson was born on May 27, 1907 in Springdale, Pennsylvania. As stated on Rachel Carson biography by Lisa Lear, Rachel lived on a farm growing up. Her mom steered her towards loving nature and animals, and that's how she got into writing and eventually decided to go to college at Pennsylvania College for Women, which is now called Chatham University, and pursued work in marine biology. In 1929, after that, she moved on to study at the Woods Hole Marine Biological Laboratory, and since she loved animals so much, she then moved on to Johns Hopkins University and got her MA in zoology in 1932. Now that you know a little bit about her life and how she started her work with wildlife, I'll now talk to you about what she did for a living. She had a deep love for animals, but she also loved writing. During the Depression, she was hired by the U.S. Bureau of Fisheries, where she wrote radio scripts and featured articles on natural history for the Baltimore Sun. She was a very busy lady, but when she had free time, she used her government articles she wrote and turned them into lyrical prose. These articles and books she wrote is what made her famous as a naturalist and a scientist writer. Some of these are Under the Sea, Wind, and The Sea Around Us. She was always worried about the public and their health, but after World War II, she changed her research from her normal work to the use of synthetic chemical pesticides. Since she was so well known, she hoped people would listen to her. This work she did made her a target from the chemical industry, and even some of the government. But despite all this, she continued her work. Her book, Silent Spring, changed how people thought about the relationship between us and the environment. And this is still being used to change how people think now. She wrote about chemical pollution and the greenhouse gases, and how humans were the cause of that, which was much different way to think than many other historical scientists of her times, says DeMarco in Journal of Clear Production, titled Rachel Carson's Environmental Ethic, A Guide for Global Systems Decision Making. Some of her works were published in the New Yorker before she released The Silent Spring as a book in the summer of 1962. Women haven't always been allowed to work as scientists or have many jobs, but Rachel Carson always was doing her best to help her fellow women of the time get jobs, and that is what I'll talk about lastly. Being a woman in the early to middle 1900s, working as a marine biologist and a writer was hard, but Rachel worked so hard for everything she had. She loved what she did and wanted everyone to have a passion for it, or at least understand the oceans. During that time, it was normal for women to stay home and take care of the family, but she wanted much more. Writing has been a male-dominated thing, but she used her power and popularity to write about problems in the environment. She had a way of presenting complex problems, but she did it with such a poetic way that everyone was compelled to listen to her. She was also very courageous and wasn't afraid to talk in front of the congressional committees who were skeptical of her way of thinking and convinced them otherwise. Rachel Carson, even without meaning to, helped women for years to come because she gave them someone to look up to. She used her popularity to educate people about how they can change their ways so that they would change what they did to preserve the environment so we stay healthy for more years. In this speech, I talked to you about the early life of Rachel Carson, what she did for work, and how she has paved the way for women of many generations to come. In this speech, you learned about Rachel Carson, who she is, and why she is important to our understanding of the oceans. I hope now you have a better look at one of the most influential writers and marine biologists of her time, and how much she truly cared about the world. Researching Rachel was very interesting to me. I loved learning about a strong female in science and how she has helped us so much, and I hope you enjoyed listening. Now once again, I will read you a quote from Rachel to leave you with something to think about. One way to open your eyes to unnoticed beauty is to ask yourself, what if I had never seen this before? What if I knew I'd never see it again?